I think at this point, calling them conspiracies is actually counterintuitive. Uh, they're not. They're facts. They're unpopular facts. Maybe we can call them that. Uncomfortable truths. There's a lot of things you could call them, but conspiracies, I think, is it's a very poorly fitting shirt now. Because conspiracy theorists are got to be tired of being right? I'm noticing people, serious people in the history community, starting to interact with them. He can't be ignored by them anymore.
Correct.
He eclipses, everybody but Jimmy Corsetti.
Exactly.
So
and they interacted recently too. Did you see that?
I did, and I was like, I geeked out about that. Yeah, it felt like a really cool collision of worlds.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that AJ is trying to position himself to be more serious with serious people, because all throughout humanity, our story is controlled by elites of the lower classes, right? That has never not been what's actually happening. And no matter what you believe, no matter which philosophy is your favorite, even if you believe aliens are the be-all end-all of everything, well, that's still the ruling class and us, the peon humans. So no matter which way you want to look at it, that is the battle. We start to see the decline of the elongated skull ruling class.
Okay.
You start to see the average Joes, the roundheads, regular Homo sapiens say, "Screw you guys."
Right.
And what we find in the archaeological record is mass graves of brutal annihilations of elongated skull people in the Mediterranean area. John Stevens and Catherwood, they went out and they documented the sites in the Yucatan and wrote about it from an explorer's perspective and from a scientist's perspective. And I don't think there's very many people, with the exception of Luke Caverns and Mike from Wandering Wolf, that are actually, he's just the best. Mike Collins is great. But like, really, who else is going out and doing citizen archaeology?
This is for you, Cody.
Thank you. I legitimately tried to see if it would work with my headset, and I realized it wouldn't. So
I obviously did not try before I tried, but I'm gonna just do this first. I'm just gonna own this for a couple minutes while we finish this here.
Well, I think it's important, if we could just say that's an important thing to do, to be a little bit silly sometimes, because humor's the great equalizer, right? We don't need to take ourselves too seriously. That's when the world sucks.
What's up, humans? Welcome to another episode of Humans of the Multiverse.
Our goal is to bring people together by featuring the stories of our friends from all over the globe.
We want to share our interests with the world, and that's why we started this show.
So if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends. Press the like button and subscribe to our channel.
And if you have a compelling story to tell, send us an email.
Thanks for watching.
So the microphone was the very first thing I got before I even built a set, had anything, because I wanted to have decent audio. So
so is it like a lava lamp? What's going on here?
It's the HyperX Quadcast Pro, I think, specifically, is the one with the LED. And you can set it a variety of ways. I like it to be almost like a flame flicker.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
That's kind of you'll see it's warmer down at the bottom and it gets lighter up at the top. And it's like, as I breathe into it, like if you talked into a candle, it'll kind of make that effect. So I played with it to get that, and it's I like it. It sounds decent when I have it set up right, but I'm not the greatest with technology, so it's a good mic though.
It's badass. I love it.
Very cool.
You got it.
I wanted to just start off quick. Anyone see the mantis beings on Y-Files last night?
I did, yeah. I was watching that live, and I enjoyed that. Me and my boy watched that whenever they drop one.
Very cool.
Nice.
Mike, did you see it?
I still haven't watched it yet. Sorry. I'm gonna watch it today probably.
I'm 16 minutes into the 25 minutes. I think that's so cool that you watch Y-Files with your son. Like it's like a kind of family tradition kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, I some of the episodes are a little out there. There's
Uh-huh.
some I won't let him watch, but
Uh-huh.
for the most part, like AJ knows a lot of people watch that with their kids.
Sure.
He mentions it quite a bit, so he keeps it like the language clean. But some of the concepts, I don't think he's ready to chew on just yet. He just
Right.
turned 11, so it's like
Ah.
I want him to be thinking, but maybe not too hard about everything. So.
Like the end of the world and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. You be a kid for a couple more years. Aliens, the pyramids, all that stuff. Yeah, get the wheels turning. But it's AJ does such a great job being a storyteller. That's another thing that I want them to see as well, because the art of storytelling, I feel like, is borderline a dead one. We have conversations by and large now, but rarely do you see a storyteller just telling a story, like Mr. Mythos. I don't know if you've ever watched him, but
No,
Great
Mike.
channel. That's how I learned about Kozarev mirrors. That's how I started to learn about the Monroe Institute and all that stuff.
yes, he is so good, and his formula is really simple. I mean, he's got a very simple formula. He's just sitting in front of a green screen, talking into a microphone, but he's such a good storyteller. I can and have literally listened to him for hours and hours, and AJ's that way too. So I like them to see those storytellers, because storytelling is our greatest art as humans. Before we were even drawing things and writing things, we were telling stories. It's an important tradition that I don't know, guys like AJ definitely, they spark and keep alive. So yeah, I guess it is a bit of a tradition now.
100%. And yeah, like sitting around the campfire before we're even writing on rocks or something, we're telling stories about the monster over the hill, and that kind of thing. And it's, I think it's one of the things that differentiates us. And it's also one of the things that carries our traditions forward through time. So yeah, you guys are familiar with Mr. Ballin? He's a storyteller on YouTube that I like. You guys ever watch him?
Yeah, I have seen some of his stuff. I don't think I'm subscribed, but yeah, there's some really good ones out there. I need to find more.
Mr. Ballin's a former Navy SEAL who just tells like kind of creepy stories, true crime stuff, and it's very limited stuff going on behind him with with him being a good storyteller, and I think he does a really good job of it as well. And so I'm assuming that's the inspiration for you, right?
Yeah, it 100% was. AJ definitely, like, I was like, dang, that's he's got the cool set. There was something more, because I like to watch. I've got to too often drive and just listen. So when I get the chance, I like to watch. And if you're not going to be particularly animated, and even if you are, it's nice to have something else going on. So just his background, it gave you a little bit of eye candy, some Easter eggs almost.
Yep.
Because I'm super ADHD, so I'm constantly ping-ponging my thoughts. So while I'm listening to that story, I need to do 3 other things too. So I look at the stuff that he has in the background. He does change it. And I was like, dang, that's something clever that I think really works. Because when did you guys start watching him?
Y-Files a couple years now, probably 2 years, I would say. Not since the beginning, but I've been watching it long enough to grow to love it.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
since the beginning for me either, but somewhere like early COVID, maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
or like 2021, something like that for me. Yeah, as well. But I've actually went through and watched the whole thing as well, and
Yeah, I've
the
probably watched most of the old ones by now.
yeah, his evolution has been quite impressive as well.
It has. I found him when he was around 40,000.
Wow.
And I back then, like, AJ was really, really responsive to everybody because he still kind of could be.
Mm-hmm,
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
And then when COVID happened, uh, that's like he really started to take off around then. I feel like he
Mm-hmm.
was getting injected into the algorithm because he would tap dance around it really carefully and like make allusions to it and using hecklefish as the foil. I He could really get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Right.
oh, well, I didn't say that. Are you really gonna censor an inanimate object? Come on, YouTube. You know,
Right.
he's clearly the crazy conspiracy theorist watching this. He's the
Right.
audience. I'm saying it's not true. He gave himself such a brilliant leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Um, and he, he's always been a very gracious guy. So yeah, definitely a big inspiration when I finally got this iteration of online presence going. I was like, that's the changing background, something to aesthetically enjoy while you're listening as well. That's important.
It
For
creates a
sure.
silent subplot because if you recognize that book, you're like, oh, I have that book. I've read that book before. You see it on the shelf. A couple weeks later, it might be a different book, though, or two more, or more books stacked underneath it. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like the kind of changing out of whatever stock footage or AI they use and that kind of thing. How you guys feeling about the new Y-file stripped?
Format, the concise heckle, the lack of hecklefish in some of the new videos.
Uh-huh.
Shoot, I don't mind if it means we get more Y files and we don't have to wait as long. I'm okay with it.
So the first time I thought like I didn't understand the premise, that was on me. I didn't get
Mhm.
that like he was trying to be streamlined. I thought it
Mhm.
was like I got rid of hecklefish because I was in the live comments and I saw him say like, "Be kind on me, guys. Like I'm trying something new."
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it. I'm like, "Oh God, he he got rid of hecklefish," and my son
Hecklefish.
was devastated. He was like, "Oh no."
Oh no.
Dad, tell him you don't like that. We don't like that. And I'm like, no, I don't like that at all. So here I am like, blah, 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 typing in the live as there's like 10 trillion comments going by. But
Uh,
then I realized like, it is a different format. He's
yes.
trying to be more streamlined. And what I think he's doing, and I don't blame him at all, he's trying to take a little bit of a more serious evolution.
Yes.
Mhm.
I I'm noticing serious people in the history community starting to interact with him. He can't be
Correct.
ignored by them anymore.
Correct.
Mhm.
He eclipses, everybody but Jimmy Corsetti.
Exactly.
So
And they interacted recently too. Did you see that?
I did it. I was like, I geeked out about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
it felt like a really cool collision of worlds.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I think that AJ is trying to position himself to be more serious with serious people and be able to still provide his entertainment. And then I think he wants to provide what is pretty serious journalism in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I respect that a lot, because sometimes you do have to make that decision. Um, and I say good for AJ. And as long as he doesn't eliminate the gimmick completely. Because yeah, I do enjoy it. I'm a 3-year-old. His Hecklefish's little jokes, like that's why he puts them in there. Who doesn't enjoy them? Like with his Gertie camel wife, like all the jokes he
The whole
makes, like
camel saga.
yeah, god damn,
Uh,
it's so funny. Like
Now they still
he
do that
gets
in the ads. If he does an ad spot, even on the stripped down format, you'll get a little hecklefish in the advertisement at the beginning, right?
yeah. I did notice that, and I was like, okay, so there's your little dose. But it's not the same. I'll fast forward through those sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
definitely not the same. My first time, I was very confused as well, and I noticed that like he had like makeup on and stuff like that. I noticed a lot clearer in it, and I'm weird about makeup, especially on men. Makeup scares me for some reason, so I was like, "What's happening here?" And I felt kind of empty after watching it. But then then I read like the comments, and
Right.
AJ's very passionate
He
about
is.
what he does, and he's very passionate about his audience and his connection with his audience, and he's very grateful for his audience. And so
Yep.
I know it's hard on him to see like everyone going, no, don't do it. But he did like come out with there was a non-stripped version that came out last week, correct?
Right. He said he would still make them once a month, I guess, at the end of the month. And it kind of does make you look forward to a feature length, more of a movie night with all the added hecklefish, extravaganza.
The
Make
family
popcorn,
night, right?
sit down. Yeah, it's a little longer. And maybe they'll also be releasing more regularly too. Because for a while he would be like, we're, it's pushing out a few days. I haven't kept super close track, but
Yeah.
Well, it makes it an event, and that's smart too.
Yes.
That's smart marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've listened to his story. I've watched not all of his lives like I have his episodes, but uh he's discussed that like he's really kind of floundered a few times
Mm,
until he found his groove.
hmm hmm
This was kind of for him in a lot of ways his last go at it
hmm
is how he felt about it, because I
hmm
think he had like a little production studio of some kind going before, and it
hmm
had just failed. So like he was like, okay, I got to try something more simple, more streamlined, work with the resources I got, and
hmm
this is what he was able to come up with. And then it's just like this ridiculous hit.
Yeah.
And I so I his marketing is brilliant, because
Yes.
like you mentioned earlier, the evolution of his videos when he started to where he is now, it's such a subtle difference in a lot of ways, but boy howdy did he make each one of those little tweaks matter a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant on his part.
For sure.
So do you have a background at all in filmmaking, film editing, videography, or do you consider yourself a passionate amateur who obviously pays very close attention to the other YouTube channels and you're on YouTube as well, right?
So it's funny you ask. I actually throughout school, starting in middle school, and then all throughout high school, I was involved in media.
Okay.
And in high school, I ran our school's media program. I was the like bulletin guy as well. So people were subjected to me on the TV, and then they had to listen to me later do the bulletin over the
I'm
intercom.
I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked.
Well, it's funny because my wife, like, she was a TA in the office, and taped up a piece of cardboard over the speaker to dampen my voice. She's like, I had to listen to this guy once a day already. Like, I'm not going to do it a second time. So the speaker was like right over her head, and she tried to mute it, and now she has to listen to it every day. So I get a laugh out of that. But I did media all throughout high school, and that was my plan, was to go to college, get some sort of general media degree. I had a internship lined up at Fox 40 in Sacramento,
Mhm.
and that was something I was going to jump on. Uh, I'm there's actually a channel, BVTV Rocks. It's a interview channel essentially, with bands and different rock shows. And I did that. I interviewed LMFAO, Never Shout Never, like a bunch of different bands that at the time were on the come up.
Yeah.
And some of those videos, like the one where we went down to LA, those have over like 1 million views. So I I was definitely used to doing it. But we had our first child when we were 19, so that kind of
Mm.
like I halted a lot of that. I got serious. I did grown up stuff for a while, but then once I kind of got into the rhythm of life, the creative side in me had to do something. So then I started dabbling again.
Am I understanding that you guys were high school sweethearts then?
Yes, well, for me, she had graduated. She was
Ah,
freshman in college. It was my senior year. So
got it,
yeah,
got it.
we've been together a long time. Very blessed man.
That's amazing. That's really cool to hear. Um, so yeah, you mentioned your previous endeavors into online media, and so could we go there quick? Like, what was the
Yeah.
what was your evolution? Maybe it's not a quick story, but what was the evolution from there to here? And tell us the story.
Well, so when I got that creative itch again, I guess that was right about pandemic time.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting at home and I'm like just bored online like everybody else.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I ended up only being off like 8 months. So for like a lot of people, that's nothing. But for me, it seemed like a millennia. You're just sitting home scrolling. Um,
Hmm.
so like I started diving into like the conspiracies and stuff. So like memes were my first endeavor, just like basic memes. And
Hmm.
I had a Callion was that account. I was still anonymous, just mostly shit posting and meme making more than anything. Like it wasn't anything of quality, but it was enough to like feel like I was being creative. I was playing with editing apps on my phone
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
getting back into that because I used to work on Final Cut Pro and all of that. Like when it first came out, I remember being on the beta of Final Cut Pro, and then like when it actually launched. So like I missed editing anything. So even just the background on a picture, erasing that, whatever, like that was enough for then. But then so I was like, okay, as I got better at that and started making stuff that was is halfway decent, getting some decent attention, I was like, okay, I want to evolve. But I was trying to remain anonymous because a lot of what I was making was pretty inflammatory stuff. If you weren't, inclined to think it was funny or of that political persuasion,
Correct.
so it was stuff that like I didn't necessarily want my name attached to, and
Hmm.
at the time, like not just at the time, but yeah, it was really starting to pop off then. The
Hmm.
doxing and going after people's jobs because something on the internet made you mad.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I was trying to tread lightly, but I did want to start doing video stuff. So I started doing like video memes, putting my voice over stuff, and that gave me the opportunity to play with all kinds of different silly voices, which was cool because then I started thinking about doing more serious voiceover work
Hmm.
and making that something of an avenue. And that was another way that I really got to scratch that creative itch. um, but I made one meme in particular, a video meme that was on Anthony Fauci's Beagle experiments. Uh,
Yeah.
I do you guys do you want me to mention this? Would you prefer I not? I can kind of
N-
explain it a little bit, but if you prefer I not, I
No, go for it.
right.
I'm all in on this.
So
You good, Mike?
it's there's horrific footage out there of the Beagle experimentation that's taking place, and it actually an end was just officially put to it the other day I saw, and I hooped and hollered for it because come on. uh, I don't even need to say anything about it. Nobody needs to test anything on a beagle, like except what if they like their heads pet more, or their little butts. Like that's the only test. But uh, so I found all this horrific footage, and I made like one of the Sarah McLachlan in the arms of an angel,
Right.
ASPCA commercials, uh, and just basically it was. I I found Fauci's direct office line number.
Oof.
um, I dug that up and I exposed that in the video, and basically it said, if you think Beagle experimentation is cruel, call Anthony Fauci and tell him, fuck you, Tony. And his number just blaring on the screen with the Sarah McLachlan
Oh
meme.
my God.
And it went super viral.
Oh man.
And at first I was like, oh hell yeah. Because I'm talking like I was seeing it in places all over where I wasn't, like TikTok, you know, all the different Instagram, everywhere it could be
Oh my
that a
God.
video format could fit. Because I was only posting stuff on Twitter, and I'm seeing it all over the place with over 1 million views all over. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I did something really cool here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got doxxed. They actually, articles were written about it because his staff was, as you can imagine, harassed significantly as a
Mm-hmm.
result of what I exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the story had just broke, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They were
so
burying stuff like that in the
yeah,
news. Yeah.
they very much were, because nobody, you know, Anthony Fauci, the great hero and savior of mankind, he anything that would diminish that image they were trying to build, they couldn't have it. So that story was a really, it wasn't about the COVID, so they couldn't censor it, so they tried to just bury it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you couldn't even say the C word back then. You know, there was a different dirty C word back then.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was a dirty tactic on my part, because it was kind of like the cheap side shot, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew it wouldn't be able to get censored, social media wouldn't be able to flag it, um, but it was something everybody, even whether you thought he was great or you thought he was hate, you could look at that and you could say, oh my God, this is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody agrees with abusing beagles, so like it's something that universally was getting attention.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then I got doxxed as a result of it, because of course, whether that was something as an inside thing, I'm thinking it was more just somebody who didn't like that I put it out there. um, but I ended up getting doxxed. My work got called, my wife got emailed, all sorts of things.
Wow.
Hateful shit. Hateful shit. Uh,
From like who was like behind it? Do you know?
well, that's
Like,
what I'm saying. Like when you I something like I didn't really think about until it like hit me right in the face was, you're fucking with really serious, really powerful people.
mm-hmm, right.
And internet often gives us that illusion of safety, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but the reality is people end up on doorknobs for less.
Mm.
um, and I didn't really consider until like my wife starts getting like fucking hateful emails, and my boss at
Wow.
work's like, hey, I want you to know, uh, we we got a call. I don't care what you do outside of here, but somebody called and let me know everything you do outside of here, and I'm just letting you know I don't care. I
Oh,
don't. That's
thank
okay.
God.
You don't bring it here. You do what you do here really well, and that's enough for me. Um, but it was an eye opener.
Right.
Um, so I stopped. I stopped for a while. At the time I was trying to move from California to Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, I have clearly rattled too many beehives. Um,
The biggest of beehives at the time.
yeah, yeah, and I took a break for a while, probably about a year break, but then that fever, you guys know, like you start feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do something creative. You gotta flex that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Every creative, no matter what type of creative they are, if you don't do it for a while, if you have to set it aside, even if it's for a good reason, you feel it. Starts building it. It gets heavy, you know, it's under the collar and it's there all the time. And so I was like, okay, I got to do something. And then I was thinking about the voiceover stuff I was doing and like, all right, maybe I could do serious voiceover stuff. I did a couple
Start out
radio
like
apps.
AJ.
Yeah. And that's so like I started looking into that whole world, doing the, you know, bidding for different, you know, voiceover gigs. I did a couple radio ad spots for like a bar in New Jersey. Uh, so it was something I checked out, but you've really got to pursue that all day, every day to make
Right.
any money off it.
Right.
You're refreshing all day. And the second a new gig is posted, bam, you're sitting, you're totally fleshed out voiceover resume. And I like all I had was, you know, crap I made on this microphone. I bought it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy a halfway decent mic that'll, if I build the right space for it, it'll sound like a actually decent mic. And it was just, you know, different things I had read, different samples I read, but nothing that had ever been published, nothing that was ever on the air, nothing like that. So it wasn't a very attractive resume, is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
Starting from the bottom in that field in particular, because you couldn't reuse the incendiary stuff from right before. You certainly couldn't use that, and even then, it's a little bit harder to adapt. Obviously, you spent much of your childhood honing these skills. Some of that doesn't necessarily translate immediately into a resume.
Yes, and what I did for money was very different than you know, anything related to voiceover or media related. So it after trying it out for a while though, I realized I literally didn't have the time to play the game that is
Correct.
voiceover gigging.
Yeah. Correct.
If it's like day trading, like if you can sit there all day, watch, sell, you know, trade, man, great money in it. You can work from home if you are a serious person who will watch it and diligently play that game. Same with voiceover work. You can make serious money if you're going to sit there and diligently do it. But if you're working a job that's 9-10 hours a day, there's no chance. So
Right.
I decided, like, perhaps as I'm watching AJ now just go from like 40,000 to 100,000 in it was such a short amount of time. I was like, man, there's an appetite for the crap that I eat as mental junk food. I've always been interested not just in, you know, government conspiracies, but going back to when I was a kid, my mom would read me, you know, the Mysteries of Egypt's books, all those, you know, different mysteries of the great wonders of the world.
Sounds like a cool mom. Shout out,
She was
mom.
great. Yeah, no, I shouldn't say was. She's still alive. But when I was a kid, she was wonderful to really spark that. She read to me a bunch. I was a slow reader, so she would read to me, and we would steamroll through books. And that was stuff I had always enjoyed. I never stopped enjoying it. And now that I've been doxxed, my name's out there, my info's out there. People are hitting up my work, my wife, you know, whatever. I clearly have no anonymity now. So, but at the same time, I don't want to continue because it did stop, right? Like people are only pissed off for so long. Internet vigilantes are still just internet vigilantes.
CIA funded dries up.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, like in the back of my mind, like I was always like backing out of my driveway, double pumping the brakes, like making sure they had like fluid in them and stuff.
Man, you don't want to get Clinton. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. The plumbers show up. But it did.
You
stop.
win some plane tickets in the mail. Don't go.
Yeah, exactly.
So no men in black showed up or anything.
No.
Oh, thank goodness.
Well, I mean, anybody who would have looked into me probably would have been like, "Oh, we can scare the piss out of this guy really easy. He's a nobody jabroni from Sacramento, working a regular piss on job like everybody else." So they did. They successfully scared me, and I shut my damn mouth for a little while, and that was that. But when I got going again, and voiceover wasn't going to be the answer, I was thinking, what could I get going to be less inflammatory, but still at the end of the day, drive to these conspiracies that people need to be thinking about. They're not I think at this point, calling them conspiracies is actually counterintuitive.
Hmm.
Uh, they're not, they're facts, they're, unpopular facts, maybe we can call them that,
Like
uncomfortable
that.
truths. There's
Like
a lot
that.
of things you could call them, but conspiracies, I think, is, it's a very poorly fitting shirt now. 'Cause
Oh yeah.
I conspiracy theorists are gotta be tired of being right, right? I mean,
Hmm.
Well, the
I'm sick
simple
of being right.
fact that
Stop proving me right.
the simple fact that we don't know everything. Like science is incomplete. Science is our best way of finding things out, but we don't know everything there is to know about, for instance, our own origins or the remote past. So I find it hard to devote, a whole lot more attention to just fictional entertainment media. And that's what you're saying. People need to be thinking about this stuff. There's more to life than going to your job and then coming home and consuming fictional entertainment media. Have you ever thought about the fact that we don't exactly know the history of our own species ourselves? People need to be thinking about this day in and day out. I can't stop thinking about stuff.
That's
Just
all I
because it's
think
like, wow, we
about.
haven't figured it all out yet. We should be trying harder to figure more out. But some people want to tell you, no, we do have it all figured out. Trust us.
Yes. Too many people, or I what's funny is as great as my mom was to read me those stories, she never gleaned anything from them. She told
Mm.
me flat out one time, "Cody, I would rather just not give these things thought than give them thought and be stressed out by them." And
Mm.
I hadn't ever considered people wouldn't be willing to feel a little uncomfortable. I Because I've always pursued the truth regardless.
Yeah.
Uh, During the whole pandemic time, like some of the things I dug into took genuine couple-week long tolls on me as a person. Like I had
Sure.
to check out, clock out as a dad, as a husband, as a
Hmm.
coworker. Like I was in a dark place from certain things I found.
Hmm.
And but still, like, I kept coming back for more. I pursued different things. I
Hmm.
kept digging different wells,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, I feel like it's not about, uh, if you feel comfortable or not. You're you don't That's not what a petty thing to sit and worry about. Like, acknowledge the pursuit of that, the pursuit of the truth, right? Like, the truth should trump your level of comfort.
Yes. Yes.
Um, it doesn't matter if it's more convenient, like in so many ancient history things, to explain, it's ceremonial or a burial, it's just a tomb. That's really convenient, and you can accept those things on face value, because I mean, sure, there's boxes in some of them that, I mean, I guess you could have stuffed a body in. It doesn't look like other things they put bodies in, but yeah, if you don't want to think about these things deep and not stress yourself up and not stay up all night like we do, how did they do it? How did they even get the box in there? It doesn't fit through the hallways. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if,
And to your
if you
mom's
don't want
point, my heart always goes out to, so like a lot of people do just want to live in a society where things are okay and things are kind of how as they're supposed to be, go to the job, come back, not ponder the deep things. I actually enjoy pondering the deep things. It doesn't stress me out or scare me. But where what we're doing is important is there's a lot more going on in society than the surface level that they're selling people. So I almost feel, well, I don't feel responsible for it, but I do feel like on behalf of all the innocent people who just want to live good lives that aren't, kind of aware of some of the things that maybe we are, we got to keep poking. We got to keep prodding and gently share that with other people too, because people are
Yeah.
manipulating society. People are getting taken advantage of in massive ways that are very unpleasant when you do find out about it.
Yeah, and I I'm glad you said that, Mike, because like I, for example, our boomer parents and whatnot, they grew up trusting all these institutions, right?
Yeah.
And there's safety, emotional safety in that, and that's why like that generation in particular is having a really hard time separating propaganda from the truth. And but even just people I know, not necessarily from that generation, it's really difficult for some personalities. It's very difficult to admit to yourself that everything's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Everything's a narrative, everything's propaganda, no matter what channel you're watching, no matter what book
Yep.
you're reading. And none of the things you've been told growing up are true. Like, and that's like
Yeah.
I'm being extreme and hyperbolic, but not really. At the
That's
same
how they
time,
get people fooled. A lot of also
Yeah.
with false dichotomies. Two
yes,
institutions, and one of them says, well, you need to believe our institution. The other people are out there, they're out to get you. The other institutions doing the exact same opposite thing, whether it's organized religion or the government. There's a lot of people on both sides of that who simply wanted to pick the right institution, and then they're both getting taken advantage of.
I'm actually finding
Absolutely.
freedom, like since COVID happened, I'm actually finding freedom in the knowledge that everything's bullshit, because I can spot propaganda so quickly, and I can
Mhm.
spot the people who are falling victim to it very quickly too. I'm having a hard time learning how to communicate with those people, because I feel the need to help them, especially if they're like but maybe I'm not. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but like maybe I'm
I go
not.
back and forth. I want to wake
Yeah.
people up, but I know deep down, not my fault, not my problem. It's really not my responsibility.
But it brings me to what
Yeah.
Mike said and what Cody does, and what we kind of do, which is kind of sharing this stuff in a lighthearted way and in a way that's packaged. Like Cody's, we were watching some of your videos this morning, and you edit very well. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Can I ask, sir, is there a Fallout inspiration going on here? But the game Fallout, the video game.
So I absolutely love that game.
Okay, I knew it.
But it's twofold. The 1920s music right now is royalty free. Any of it.
Yeah.
As long
Okay.
as
As
long as it's
Perfect.
1925 and earlier. So I can have and when was the
That's
golden
amazing.
age of exploration?
Yeah, then.
The early 1920s. So to me the whole vibe and the package. Yes, Fallout, like I absolutely love. I've got an old ass
Correct.
TV
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
just because like I was like, damn, I've always wanted to have like one of the Fallout looking TVs.
Mm-hmm,
But then I realized like I could actually manipulate it digitally in the edit process. And like that's why sometimes there's stuff on it. If my
yeah.
camera is straight onto it, I can edit whatever the hell I want on there.
Amazing.
And that's, I think, as long as you can package it information in a way that people feel disarmed about. I guess I realized you don't need to be a bull in a china shop about a lot of stuff. And Mike, I think you had just said that you don't necessarily feel like it's your responsibility to go around waking up everybody. I got to a certain point on my time off where I kind of felt that way too. I was like, you know what? I don't need to be a wrecking ball, because I was running around to my family and to my friends sounding like an absolute damn loon, right? Like a million miles an hour, like brrr, brrr, like oh my god, everybody's lying to you, everything is deceiving you.
I know.
The
It is
celebrities
alarming.
you love are trying to kill you. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to do, what to say anymore. So then I was like jaded about it all, and I was like, you know what? Being a weird, stupid loon like doesn't actually wake anybody up. Nobody cared about what I was saying.
Sure.
But then I realized, you know what? You can take a softer approach. You can go about things in a way that's more palatable to the general person who wants the safety blanket, who wants to eat the steak in the Matrix.
Right.
My ma, bless her heart, who just doesn't want to stress about these things. She watches every one of my videos. I force feed it to her and she doesn't even know it, you know? So it's if you can slip it in there in a way that's wrapped in a narrative and people can enjoy. And that's to AJ's credit what he did so expertly that I admired so much. I felt like if I could have a unique gimmick, a 1920s explorer, and what they did to Indiana Jones, if I can digress for a second and just say, I felt like our pop culture hero was just massacred. Like it's what has become of Indiana Jones is just such a damn shame. My kids don't watch it and go, damn, this guy's cool. Like we didn't watch the last Indiana Jones and feel good about it. Like we felt bad about it. And that hurts me deeply. Right? Yes. See, it's our responsibility to make Indiana Jones cool again. If even if they won't with the actual Indiana Jones, we can still keep the vibe. We can still keep the whole aesthetic. Because I went with a black hat of the same crest, right? It's a similar shaped hat, but completely black, and then with my unique headband. So I tried to kind of tweak everything and make it uniquely different, but still hearken to that vibe very clearly. And
Yeah,
I
sorry, that was an epic fail on my part. I didn't know how it
No,
was
I
going to
loved
work
the
with the
hat. That was
headset on, and I couldn't get it on. I was like, "This looks like shit." And then, yeah. So, but the point was,
I
this
tried
was for
that
you,
actually
Cody.
ahead of time.
This is for you, Cody.
Thank you. I legitimately tried to see if it would work with my headset, and I realized it wouldn't. So
I obviously did not try before before I tried, but I'm gonna just do this first. I'm just gonna own this for a couple minutes while we finish this here.
Well, I think it's important if we could just say that's an important thing to do, to be a little bit silly sometimes, because humor is the great equalizer, right? We don't need to take ourselves too seriously. That's when the world sucks. So it's funny sometimes the comments I'll get that are like legitimately casting shade, like in the fraudulent archaeology wall of shame group.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
People take me so seriously in there, and
Yeah.
oh boy, do I get off on that. It's I get such a rise out of the fact that they are taking a freaking sepia-toned, uh, I wear gauntlets on my arms with knives tucked into them like I'm Percy Fawcett or Rick O'Connell. Like I've got Rick O'Connell freaking suspenders over my shoulder. It's hilarious to me that somebody would really get like bent out of shape and mad about it. But oh boy, have they. Flint Dibble has, John Hoops has. It's funny to see that freaking Soil Man Dan or whatever that guy's name is.
Have you
Oh,
interacted with David Milano, Dr. David Milano?
yes, and you know what? I'm gonna be a rare voice out there on our side of the fence that is gonna say, I think David Miano isn't the worst guy on the planet. I
No,
really don't think he is.
no, he is not.
I'm fond of him, honestly. He's like and it's something like as I see the tribalism kind of happen around X so much as it does, I've voiced out loud my fondness for Miano and had big names that would surprise you DM me
I know exactly what you're
and
talking
shit on
about.
me for it.
Yep.
I mean multiple, which surprised me. People you might expect and people you wouldn't expect. And I was like, wow, you guys are petty as hell about some things. But I think a lot of that's died down now. I think kind of as X opened back up, there was a big hailstorm of people then just shit posting on each other. But I see less just ugly attacks. Like after the Dibble and Graham Hancock thing, there was a lot of just like really low hanging ugly stuff. And I don't support that kind of stuff. I think take your fair shots, right? Criticize what deserves to be criticized, and that's for people you like and people you don't like. I have criticized people that are very much on the alternative side of things, and they've not taken it very kindly. Like I was trying to attack them, but personally, I always like when people have come to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I watched your thing. I think this and this was good. This is what bugged the hell out of me." Um, Tell me those things. I wanna know those things
Mm-hmm.
because I wanna do this. I wanna be serious about this. Um, and I'm not gonna be if I languish in obscurity forever because something isn't working. So I want
Mm-hmm.
criticism, but, I suppose maybe when you get to a certain point, you don't need it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck am I to say anything to them about it?
Yeah.
So, it's, I don't know. People are funny and take things everybody receives things differently, but I've always been really open to it. And when people tell me something and they've legitimately taken the time to watch my thing, tell me what you think, even if it's not very flattering.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay too. But the Flint Dibbles and the John Hoops that will like take the gimmick seriously. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Right.
that that's where like I can't play serious ball with you if you're gonna like let me put on my gimmick real quick and then we'll like have our conversation and I'm gonna be totally silly about it. Because if you're gonna think it's serious and argue with a character, I'll be a character with you and argue back. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is kind of funny. But I've used the gimmick and I've tweaked some things about it. Recently, I said like now switching to Technicolor or whatever at the beginning of my video, or
Mm-hmm.
now in Technicolor,
Mm-hmm.
because I think the sepia tone really bugs the shit out of a lot of people. Um, and I honestly use it to cover up the fact that I use a crappy camera. So it add like, oh, it's grainy because it's old time. Like to me, I was like,
Ah.
easy mask. So it's more exposed when it's in full color that it's like, oh, this is shitty video quality. But I invested in the mic more than I did the camera. I'll get a nicer one at some point. It's just it's been so low on the totem pole of things to worry about that it just hasn't made it up to the the front of the line. But I did ditch that. Um, but I feel like not taking yourself too seriously, having a little bit of a gimmick, trying to come at people in a way that I can disarm them. Uh, I can get little nuggets of information across, and I think that's what's really bugging the Mianos and the or well, not Miano. Like I say, I defend that guy, but I think that's what bugs some people
Mhm.
in that community. But Miano's been pretty gracious to me since you mentioned him. I'll say he's been fair.
Make a note at 48-minute mark. I gotta go turn my air conditioner off. We'll edit this out. It's getting hot in here.
Yeah. I'm gonna save this for my Miyanu comment. How do you say it? Miyano.
Miano is how I say it. I could say it wrong. I could be
Okay.
saying it wrong.
For some reason there's an L in there in my brain, but either way, we're definitely talking about the same guy. And one thing I've noticed with him, and I've tried to subtly suggest it to him, but I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or he's just not willing to admit it to himself. But occasionally he puts out a lot of good stuff on X, and then all of a sudden it'll be like kind of like an attack on somebody else from the quote alt community, but he does it in a very pedantic way, where like you could kind of mix words a little bit, and then maybe it's not an insult, but it was definitely intended as an insult. And so I've politely suggested to him that, hey, why be insulting? Why not just talk about the content or whatever instead? And then he's kind of argued with me and like pretended like he wasn't being insulting, and then he throws it back and says everyone's been so mean to me, and I was like, I'm not being mean to you, I'm just saying. So eventually I left him
Cry
alone
bully.
because huh
Cry bully is
he
the term
did.
for that.
He did, and I eventually just left him alone. I actually like the content he puts out, and so for what it is, because here's one thing about Mike and Dave's Multiverse is we're not like fully in the camp of alternative ancient history. The problem is you have two or three alt guys on your show, and then the like the guys at the universities don't want to talk to you. That's the
Yeah.
problem we're running into right now. And I want to talk to those guys too. So does Mike. Mike's going to be an actual scientist in a few years. You know what I mean? And and we need those people too.
One today. We can start calling it that.
Hell yeah! Yep. I'm gonna do it from now on.
Good.
I'm gonna quote you. Like you'll be my reference. Like I'll be like scientist I know, Mike.
Call me. Yeah, call me. I'll look something up.
You already think like one anyway. You know, that's the thing is you can think like a scientist and still not be dogmatic. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's the opposite of science is dogmatism.
It's the duty of a good scientist to push back where it needs to be.
They'll follow the science, right? Remember that line? Follow the science.
Well, there's
trust the science, believe
trust the science. Experts. Yes, correct.
There's so many things that are solidified, that are you know, you can quantify with absolute certainty from a scientific standpoint. On the scale of, you know, things that you can quantify and guarantee are scientific facts versus that we can't, it's not even close, you know. So I think any actual self-respecting scientist should be constantly skeptical, because that's like the game. It's like a hunter who doesn't want to hunt. Like, oh, babe, I'm going out to the woods. You know, I'm gonna go catch some turkey and then stopping at a store on the way instead, and like sitting in your car for 2 days
Right.
at the Walmart parking lot and like driving back with the turkey you bought at the store. Like, what would be the point? That's like the scientist who doesn't want to do science.
Right.
But I talked about it in one of the videos I made. I think a lot of it boils down to a more simple human ego level thing for them, not like any sort of grand conspiracy, which I think there's plenty of institutionalized academic conspiracies taking place. But like a David Miano isn't part of that. He's just he can kind of be an arrogant asshole, and that's just a lot of people who are highly educated. Let's be real. The more you know, actual book learning intelligence you have, usually the less social intelligence. So he might not even mean to come off like an arrogant ass half the time. That's just how he is, and people take him that way, you know. I think a lot of it's probably with a lot less malice and not conspiratorial. Like Jimmy, I think, would think it's much more conspiratorial things in the academic community. I tend to land more in the middle, and like you guys are saying, I want to talk to real academics. I don't want them to be like, this guy's bullshit. And that's why I can kind of understand the more serious route AJ's taking, because at a certain point you want to talk to these people. They're the ones writing the books on my shelf. They are. How many others like Graham Hancock can you name? A handful. And they're not all filling my shelf. Like, it's actual academics books who are filling my shelf predominantly. So I want to be able to talk to them. I want them to take me seriously. And I would rather not argue and be ugly with them as much as possible. And I'm going to try and assume the best out of them and think that it isn't a conspiracy. It's just an ego-based self-preservation thing. This is their career. They have made the money in their pocket, the roof over their head, the food in the refrigerator. That comes from the theories that they are teaching in institutions. If you came to me and you said, Cody, in your profession, there is an entirely different new revolutionary way to do what you're doing, I would be scared as hell. I really would. I would be freaked out that I would get bulldozed and left behind. Not my first reaction wouldn't be, oh, well, better learn that. I would come to that, but my first reaction would be, oh my God, I'm going to be replaced. So I think for a lot of these guys, when a new theory comes out or new evidence comes out, that's like the new kid on the block, and it's like, whoa, you trying to take off my plate? Are you trying to take my seat? You know, it's it's more of a self-preservation than any sort of conspiracy. And you you really can't blame a guy for that, honestly. So I've stopped trying to be as hateful as maybe I was when I started out. I took
Yeah.
cheaper, lower hanging shots, but I try and really reserve those now. I made a whole video on John Hoops that wasn't very nice, but even that I toned down and reworked like 3 different times to just stay as on point and factual as I could without just being hateful and mean.
Your point about ego is also valid because the world of professorship is highly competitive. Those guys already had to
For
beat
sure.
everybody that's in their niche. They already had to outcompete them to get that professorship at that, highly
Yep.
prestigious location. And yeah, they can certainly defend their camp now against the other hordes and camps that come and try to, like, they're used to that. They're used to competing and they've got pride because they made it that far. So it's understandable from a human element.
It for sure is. That you mentioned tribalism. I agree with you. Like where you come from, these guys and this is their livelihood. This is their life's work. When things get iffy is when the tribalism kicks in amongst like the non-academics and like the people who are quote their followers and whatnot. Because what you'll see is like you'll see things like lumping somebody who just asks a question, somebody who like maybe asks a question about a narrative or a general timeline about ancient history, and then they get lumped in as an ancient alien guy, or like they get lumped in as like pyramids on Mars guy, and then some people go as far as to put everyone in this
Hey, we
flat Earth
resemble all
camp,
those
right?
remarks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. I love that shit, right? I love Ancient Aliens. It's probably my favorite show besides the
Oh,
X
it's great.
Files. And
Yeah.
but it's meant to, when you put somebody in that camp, it's meant to delegitimize them,
Oh yeah.
and it's like it's almost as bad as calling somebody a flat earther. And there are people who will just toss you in that camp, like just for asking a simple question. I think it's just tribalism in general, right? It's the rhymes with rump that's the president right now. It like you mention one good thing that he's done. For example, he stopped a war yesterday between India and Pakistan. You mention one good thing about him, and there's certain people who are so tribal about it that they can't hear it. They only want to see
Yep.
it as a bad thing. And so that's also human nature. So I've been trying to, it's very difficult for me, but I've been trying to look at those people from a human perspective as well, that they joined a camp. It's their identity, right? It makes them feel good to be on this team of, oh, I'm with the smart research guys who do all the academics. And these guys are just a bunch of pseudoscience assholes talking about flat Earth and pyramids on Mars, a bunch of dumbasses, right? And even though it's like real dickhole way to like look at things, I've been trying to look at it from a human perspective, because if I don't, I'm just going to be surrounded by people who scare the shit out of me because of the tribalism and the propaganda.
It's well, yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that. For me, I really had a hard time um being on a human level with people about stuff that I disagreed with. Like when I was doing the political content, I was just being an asshole. I really was. I was trying intentionally to just be as assholey as possible, to just be a wrecking ball. But that's like not actually effective. It's just inflammatory for the sake of being inflammatory,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
I did realize at a certain point. I was like, "Yeah, that's just like being a child, like, throwing matches or something." Um, and that's the ugly side of what we do, I think, as people a lot.
Definitely. Pun intended, but the fallout of it is a little bit stressful sometimes too, right? But you might forget to getting doxxed, but just in general, the negativity that comes around, like you put out something inflammatory and then people are
Yeah.
attacking you, and you know.
Well, I yeah, I
Why?
realized that, like,
Did you
and I
enjoy
think
that?
well, so
It just seems like a not a very joyful life, like stirring up strife left and right, and then getting it right back at you, because that's what's going to happen.
Well, so it depends. Like, sometimes you wake up and you're feeling it. Like somebody say the wrong thing today, right?
Yeah.
Like you're full of piss and
Yeah,
vinegar.
that's true. I'm like
Like,
that. Yeah.
so I mean, at the time I was mad about what I was seeing in the world, and I didn't have a mature way to process it, and so that was an outlet. uh like you could have done it constructively, and like I could have got a punching bag or something, right? But instead I was like, I'm gonna go beat up on idiots on the internet. Like
Right.
that I for a while, yes, I did actually enjoy like the fight of it, because I was pissed off and immature in the ability to process the things that were pissing me off.
Mm.
um but as I was digging into those things that were pissing me off, I realized like all the people that rule the world are hermeticists, and they use that to their advantage. And I was like, so what's this all about? And I dug into that, and like when I learned that philosophy, it really changed how I interacted with people, because I realized more of the actual legitimate connection we all share, um, which bad people in the world use negatively to their advantage. But I make so much content on hermeticist ideas that I think it's a philosophy that people need to be understanding and using positively to make those positive waves and ripples. And if you're thinking about your interactions with each other, you're intentionally choosing. That's the thing, right? With intention, choosing to be kind in your interactions. You don't need to be an asshole. You can choose not to respond at all. When somebody's trying to get my goat now, more times than not, sometimes I'm still feeling the piss and vinegar and it comes out, and I try not to, but I think if you can, with intent,
Right.
more times than not, choose to either ignore it, mute people, right? X has mute. I
Yes.
mute the shit
You
out of
won't
people.
see their posts, but you're also not actively fighting against it. They're still there, but if it
Yeah.
bothers you, you don't have to see it. It's very simple.
My block list is incredibly short on X, and it's for things that I find like abysmal to the core, more
Mhm.
so than nobody's on there that I disagree with. Let me put it that way. Like
Yeah.
you only make the block list if you're a fundamentally abysmal human. And that's never going to be from a disagreement of, political or historical nature. So um it's the mute options there, and I think if you can ignore people or just respond in kindness, like you say, the lumping everybody in one camp for asking a question, try being nice, responding with politeness. There are a lot of academics out there who very much disagree with anything remotely alternative, who are willing to have a conversation with you.
Not
Mhm.
John Hoops. John, he
Mhm.
blocked you. He has you blocked, right? John Hoops.
Which one?
John Hoops has you blocked. He's the notorious
Oh, hell
blocker.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
he
should
has
we should
me.
look into getting him blocked too. That way we can make a post about it and promote on our socials.
Yeah. Well, I thought about just posting in the fraudulent archaeology group the video that I made on him. Because I'm in the fraudulent archaeology group. It's a public group. Anybody can join. So I thought about just like going in there and dropping the link and been like, hey, this asshole made a video about you, Hoops. But but then like you had asked a minute ago, no, I don't enjoy it anymore. And I don't like, I honestly felt super ugly about the video. And the first, I context for anybody who hasn't seen it, which is like probably anybody that watches this, it's a it's a psychoanalysis of John Hoops and what would make him feel like he needs to be such an outwardly ugly and hateful person to people trying to learn from him.
Mhm.
um because like he's an expert of South America and the Maya
Yes.
especially.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is my favorite thing. It's literally above my
Yes.
head.
I
Yes.
was
My
going to ask you about that that's a good lead into that. But yeah, sorry.
Well, yeah, I'll make this part quick. Like it just the being ugly, the fighting with people, it's not going to serve anybody. So I would like to see John Hoops and everybody on the alternative side of things to be nicer people. I've made videos about it, and I'd hope that, like, at the end of the day, if you need a philosophy to wrap your head around it, like I did, I recommend Hermeticism, but just try not being an asshole is an easy enough way to say it, I guess.
Okay, you started to tell us this a moment ago. I have two questions regarding Hermeticism. Tell
Yeah.
us what is your personal summary, essence of the Hermetic principles, and then what sources did you use to dig in and study Hermeticism? If you could share those with us.
Yeah, absolutely. As a summary of the philosophy as a whole, I guess it's an elegant and simplistic way to understand the things that cannot be understood. The questions that you can ponder endlessly without answer. It gives you
Mhm.
ways to associate them to things you can ponder and have answers to. If you understand the correlation that exists between all objects, then what's happening in the cosmos, which I have no idea what the hell's happening in the cosmos, but I do understand what's happening in front of me on
Mhm.
in my microcosm. And it's you understand that the reflections as above, so below, those the philosophy teaches you really how much everything correlates. And when you understand that, the big questions of life can be answered in very simple ways by understanding simpler reflections of it down the chain.
Mhm.
um, and to study it, there's a million great ways. There's a lot of great books. I don't have time for any of that. My job is very demanding. I work a lot of hours, so I have to listen to every single thing I try and learn. Um, so I used every good YouTube video that wasn't garbage,
Mhm.
like just straight readings of the documents. I don't like people's opinions on ancient
Okay.
documents. Um, I don't want to hear what somebody's interpretation is. That's I'm not looking for that. Tell me the book, and if I have to struggle to understand the way it's written, that's okay. I'm going to struggle to understand it, and I'm going to work through that, and I'm going to figure it out. I don't want to be influenced by somebody's else view of it. So I just found good audio readings. Most of them are AI, I assume, um, and you can listen to all that. I started reaching out to people who were incredibly knowledgeable. NEXT, I'll thank
Mhm.
him flat out.
Yep.
He's somebody who has been so kind and gracious to send me resources, send me, point me in directions to go to further what I was hearing and what I was reading. Because any chance I got, once I discovered it, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like now I understand all these things. I've like sat and been like, "Oh, how many times have you thought like, oh well, if there's a God, how does this horrible thing happen?" Right? I mean, you can think of any number of things.
Hmm.
Anytime a good person dies, you can
Hmm.
sit there and be like, if there is a great and mighty God, why would they let this person die?
Hmm.
So, well, from a hermetic standpoint, those questions don't even make sense. They're obvious.
Right.
He's indifferent in a lot of ways. So
Hmm.
it's not the personal relationship people maybe think it is. And
Hmm.
that's why I think Christianity and the story of Jesus became so important, because Jesus was the hecklefish of the time, right? He was there to be the foil for the audience.
Huh.
God was the unknowable, the unconceivable. The
Huh.
world fell into sin and chaos, and so Jesus was somebody tangible and physical that I 100% believe was a absolute man, very much alive in his time,
Hmm.
and people could look at and be like, "This, uh, okay, yeah, you're telling me this is what God's about? The things you're telling me, the things you're showing me, all right, I can get behind this." So
Mhm.
that's where I think a lot of the Christian ideas came from, because there was a physical representation of something that was so abstract to people at the time. You kind of needed that. And then once you have that relationship, well, they were able to take control and manipulate, because then it became a personal thing, right? But Hermeticism, you realize it's not actually that personal, the relationship between you and God. It's not. He's as personal with me as he is with every single other person, every single tree, every single flower, every butterfly, everything else. So you can view that as incredibly personal or incredibly impersonal, whatever. And Hermeticism doesn't want to change that. Whatever your religion is, Hermeticism works within it, which I also found really neat. Because if I took a label, I'm a Christian. I go to a Southern Baptist church, but there's so many of the ideals and the constructs of, Orthodox Christianity that I just find, some outright silly, and others just flat out manipulative.
Yes.
Yeah, and I that's intentional, right? I mean, of course it is. So, but it's not anybody's fault on any sort of local level. That happened super long ago. But
Right. It's been happening.
Hermeticism works.
Yeah. It's
Go
got
ahead.
momentum. People are participating in it as part of culture and part of society. You're born in a certain
They're
place.
doing it right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Right.
individual
Yes.
fault in that community.
Yeah.
Well,
I did want to ask though, Cody, can I make a short that says Jesus, the hecklefish of ancient times? Out of
Hell
this?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Run with that.
Okay, yeah, I'm all
And
over it.
that'll get me all the internet. Hey, no, but I yes, that would be a great short title. I feel like that'll work. It's
Awesome.
well, I find it attractive that it can work within the framework of whatever religion you find comfortable. And the more you dive into the religions and you separate out what is the added control layers and what's actually the good stuff, like Rosicrucians, the
Yes.
Templars, the Masons, like
Catholics.
they understand the source knowledge, which is actually hidden in all these different religions. And that's why they're pretty okay with whatever religion you happen to be. Because this philosophy, Hermeticism, which is at the core, actually, it turns out, of every single other thing out there.
Belief system.
Yeah, it's just obscured more and more so, depending on the religion or the philosophy. So that definitely it's why, no matter what people's comfort is with religion, I encourage understanding the Hermetic viewpoints, because it's just a really beautiful way to look at the world, and dramatically changed how I interacted with people for the better. It made me a lot more cognizant, and then not just with people, like of things. Like I take a moment. 10 years ago, I would have laughed at the idea of standing there and putting your hands on a tree and thanking to yourself and to that tree how much you appreciate it, because it's giving you the fucking air you're breathing. That's magnificent. And when you think about the science behind what it's doing, holy shit. If you go to the store right now and buy a good quality air purifier, that shit's like $200. You can plant a tree right now and it just magically does it. That's divine. That is God technology. And Hermeticism paints that picture.
That makes sense.
It just, like I say, dramatically changed how I interact with the universe, I guess.
Learning how to think like that. See, I was Hermetic before I even heard about the Hermetic principles, because I realized, just like you, breathing is a miracle, which means that no matter what time of day it is, or what day of the week it is, or where I'm at, or what I'm doing, I should be grateful that this whole breathing and cellular respiration thing is going on, because otherwise I wouldn't be driving this little bag of bones type of car, And that's well, it turns out you don't need an institution or or a particular person like a priest or certain ceremonies or rituals to get that connection when you can think like that day in and day out. I had that the whole time.
Yeah. Plus, if you hug a tree, it hugs you back. So I feel the same. Like literally, this sounds dumb, but like I get a similar response. Like I have similar biological response from hugging a tree that I do from a person or a dog. So
Right.
There's
Well,
a big
it's
joke to be made there, but let's not do it.
what's funny is it's like it's not even silly because science has proven that these things that we view as not even, barely living most of the time, they're exchanging, they're communicating something. We can see
hmm
that
hmm
scientifically. We can
hmm
measure that.
hmm
We can also play them music and see them grow better.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What? If
yeah,
you're nice to a plant, it grows better? What?
yeah.
That's mad.
There's research suggesting that the fungus, below a forest helps trees
Yeah,
communicate.
fungus
you
is
know,
wild.
The
yeah,
first
Yeah,
internet.
the
yeah,
first internet. Yeah.
I don't I'm not particularly educated on it, but some of the stuff
Neither
I
am
have
I.
read, it seems wild how smart fungus might actually be. Like
hmm
crystals,
hmm
the science that's emerging about crystals and fungus
hmm
as being potentially sentient things, I think is astonishing. Not my field, but like as I've seen articles about it, I'm like, wow. And it doesn't surprise me because from a hermetic standpoint, duh, like of course these things are intelligent. Of course they are. Look at them. They're amazing. Like
Yeah.
fungus grows out of crap. We can't grow out of crap. That's
And
incredible.
there's a
That's
jillion different types of it, and they're all beautiful or ugly or in every varying degree. And sometimes you can interact with it and it changes your consciousness. So
just like humans, right?
yeah,
Yes.
Everything you just said, you could have been talking about humans. If someone could soundbite that and be like, he was talking about people. There's
no.
ugly people. There's people that change your consciousness. Tell me
hmm
how that's like any less sentient. Like they they are intelligent,
Yes.
and it just by the fact of what you just said proves how if we change our way of thinking about things and realize these things are intelligent, the gifts they're giving us are beautiful and freaking amazing. The air you're breathing in your lungs when you get out on a mountain surrounded in trees, you get high off that shit.
Mhm.
Like it's marvelous.
hmm
um when people change their framework and kind of realize that and feel that draw back to nature, that call back to nature, I think it's also a reunification with God, with Source.
It
hmm
is.
And
It
I
is.
think that's what Hermeticism at the end of the day is trying to promote. So
Yes.
it's good
That
stuff.
that's the
No.
only thing. That's the only time I feel connected to source is when I'm in like nature, at least in a very like
Same.
extreme way.
Yeah.
Is when I'm on top of a mountain or I'm camping or I'm looking up at a dark sky or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's yeah, church is a bittersweet thing for me because I love the community. I absolutely love the people that live around me. They're incredible, beautiful people. And just sometimes like the feeling I get though, like I'm like, I should feel more internally from this what should be the experience, right? The
Yes.
experience. Going to church, you're not going to be more connected to God than going to church. But like the feeling that I get when I cross over this bridge on my way to work, and it's first thing in the morning, and there aren't any other cars on the bridge with me,
Mhm.
and the clouds are rolling down the mountains onto the water below, and it looks like somebody just poured a bowl of milk just down the side of the mountain. I that oh, wow, like just that, I feel so much more connected to God and to Source looking at that and being like, I couldn't in my wildest dreams construct something that beautiful and amazing. And what is the science behind that, right? Like when you think about it on a scientific level, the pressure to create the effect of the Smoky Mountains that we have here in East Tennessee. It's
hmm
crazy stuff on every way you want to look at it. It's amazing stuff, and that is absolutely like you the way I feel so much more connected to source. Being in it, seeing beautiful natural things like that, nothing can connect us to God more than that, or whatever you want to call it. The all insert your favorite name here. Hermeticism doesn't care.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the institutions and priests that do care. They want to tell you how to think, what to think, how to name it. All that's disconnecting me from source.
Yeah.
100.
But
I
knowing what you know, you can walk into church with positive, willful intention and say, I'm here to connect my community. I'm here to bond with my friends and family, share food together, share fellowship together. And, the sermon should be good advice and good uplifting, even if you may technically disagree on some of the finer points of the theological cosmology.
Well, and that's the thing. It doesn't need to just be, because like I say, I only feel empty about it from that one particular standpoint of that's supposed to be the be all end all of God connection. But from the standpoint of, how amazing that I'm here, I'm alive, I'm with these other people that are joyous and alive, we're singing, we're sharing in each other's presence, just the sheer presence of each other. That is a God sent gift, right? And it's that's why I say it's a very beautiful, um, bittersweet thing for me, because all of those aspects I love of it. But when people want to tell you that's the only way you can have a relationship with God, then I've got to be like, I'm sorry, but it just really isn't. Go touch you a tree, rub you some
Yeah.
moss. What? Hold a Luna moth. Have you ever held a Luna moth?
I'm not.
I have not, but I love
Go
moths.
hold you a Luna
They're my
moth.
friends.
Yeah, they're so dope. Look one up. They're the most amazing things. They look like
Yeah.
little fairies. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
That was the
I
kind that helped Gandalf when he was up on that tower right before the birds came.
yeah.
Yes.
That I love that reference, Mike. I love a good Lord of the Rings reference. Thank you very much. So I think, like, when you're talking about religion in the negative parts about it, that's when you get into the aspects where it was used as a form of social control for such a long time. And there's remnants of that still hanging around today, where it's like, where, as you said, Cody, like, this is the only way you can connect to source. Everything else is bullshit. You have to hear it from me. I'm the guy who wears the robe. I got a scepter. Okay. Because I was watching, I was
want a
watching,
Scepter tells you.
I've been watching this Pope guy get done, because every time I turn on my TV, it's automatically on this internet TV, and I'm trying to go right to YouTube, but Samsung takes me right to Samsung TV, so they're always right on the Pope.
You get the Pope.
Yeah, and I stop and I'm watching, and I'm just watching them do their thing. And I grew up in a Catholic church. Okay, I'm not trying to go ham on Catholics, but I'm watching and I'm looking at all the like the rituals and the costumes and the scepters and the throne and
Top
and
notch.
and it's like I'm just watching them like, this weirds me out.
You
But
can't come up with something better than that. They do it good.
no, yeah, they really do, but it also gives me the creeps a little. But then when I walk into, like, I'm not Catholic anymore, as far as, like, like, institutionally, but when I go into a Catholic church with, like, good intention, I feel something happens to my physiology and also to my spirituality. Like, there's for lack of a better word, communion happening between me and the symbolism in the church and in the building itself, and the people in there. And I can't deny it. Because I was last night just pooping on this whole Pope thing, like, just to myself. But I can't deny that, like, when I walk into a church, I feel that, but what really does it for me is, like, 9 miles into a 12-mile run, and it's like 5 in the morning, and I look up and there's the stars, and like, that's what really does it for me. But who are we to say? Like, I used to be in my 20s a really, like, dickhole atheist, but I think that was a cover for, like it was you know,
natural reaction, a natural instinct reaction to push back against what was stifled years ago.
yeah. But the older I get, the more I realize, without even looking at Hermeticism at all, the older I get, I'm like, wait a second, this whole thing is magic. Like, what the hell? Of course they tried to explain it with some magic, you know?
Yeah.
This whole thing is magic.
The first like real as a human like experience I had where I was like, holy crap, there's no way there isn't a God, when I saw the birth of my first child. um because like the idea of being a father before you have your first one is like so theoretical, and like you can wrap your mind around it so much, but until you see it actually hit air, like all of a sudden boom, something changes when it hits air, and you have this like, holy crap, it's real thing. Like it's not like a pillow stuffed in her shirt or something. Like she didn't have bad gas when I was feeling kicks. Like no, it like this thing is real and it's crying and I'm holding it, and me and this woman made it. Like when you have that experience and realize how actually miraculous that is, for me that was like, whoa. And I started at that point like wanting to get back to source, to God. Because I too had like I had spent a period of time seeking it when I was in high school, and I went to multiple different institutions and sat with multiple different holy representatives, and every single one of them told me, "We're right. Those other guys are wrong. This is
That's
the
when you
only path
start
to
to.
hell." Yeah, or they're the path to hell, and we're the path to heaven. And if you don't believe this, well, you're gonna go to hell. And every single one of them told me that, and I was like, "Ew, all of this sounds really ungodly." So I checked out for a couple of years from that yearning to connect to source. Um, but like when you have a moment, whatever it is, that it's like, holy crap, you can't help but see the patterns of divinity.
Yes.
um when you have that oh moment, follow that instinct and that urging to connect to
Mm-hmm.
source, because
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a super intentional move both in institutionalized religion and in politics and in society. It's a trifecta of spiritual warfare that's
Mm-hmm.
happening in
Mm-hmm.
society.
Mm-hmm.
And I do very much believe that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I've tried to inject the truth, the history behind the Bible into a lot of my videos. I've made
Mhm.
content specifically on the stories that the Bible drew from, and then colored in their own stuff.
The Noah's Ark one
And
recently, right?
well, that's one of them. I've made quite a few videos on the Babylonians, with the Mesopotamians in general,
Mm-hmm.
because it's they really are the wellspring. They're the source. It's I believe that everything that I've dug into and
Mhm.
followed back, I believe what we are today as modern humans came from there. Our genetic our genetic structure, this version of human came from Mesopotamia, is what I think.
Hmm.
Um, and that would be a whole other conversation, but I like to try and give the backstory, the source story to a lot of the religious things that I think have been kind of just used as narratives. Because most of them I don't think were stories. They were they were events that were
Yes.
recorded, and the Mesopotamians recorded those events. They were the
Mm-hmm.
ones there, and
Eyewitness. Yeah.
they wrote them like events they were recording, not like fairy tales. Like the
Yes.
Bible, in a lot of places, reads very fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
Mesopotamians were being hella serious. Like
Mm-hmm.
he walked into this place and it cost him, this many, pounds, whatever. They write like really oddly specific things, and then there's receipts we find for these mythical characters paying for things, and it's like, okay, so you told me that in the fictitious story, and some Joe Schmo was writing fake receipts for Gilgamesh. Get the hell out of here! I
Right.
don't. What?
And
No,
also,
Yeah.
no like moral imperatives behind those versions of it. It was historical documentation. The whole modern twist of the so and so acted this way, and we're teaching little children how to behave. So, what lesson did they learn? I never really understood that slant of the Old Testament. I still like it baffles me. This is all obviously historical stuff.
Well, it's an obfuscation because all throughout humanity, our story is controlled by elites of the lower classes, right? That has never not been what's actually happening.
Yes.
And no matter what you believe, no matter which philosophy is your favorite, even if you believe aliens are the be all end all of everything, well, that's still the ruling class and us, the peon humans. So no matter which way you want to look at it, that is the battle. That's what it has always been. It will for always be. And the Mesopotamians, I think, at that time there was a very interesting, because there's bound to be, as battles do, back and forths. And I think the Mesopotamians existed at a time period where they were seeing a pretty fair battle. They
Mhm.
were seeing the turn of humans taking control, and I do believe that's what happened very much. Humans as we know it, I mean, because I think the giants were very much a human-like species of hominids, whatever.
Yep.
But I think they were not aliens. Maybe they were. Maybe they originated there from somewhere else originally. Who knows? But I think there were multiple hominids populating Earth.
Lord of the
Uh,
Rings.
yeah, yes. Well, I mean, it's not even outlandish to say that anymore. We
No,
found these
no,
pygmy graves that are
for
like
sure.
hobbits, real world hobbits. There's
Yeah,
scientific papers about it from super credit people. So it's
yeah.
not a
It's
weird
not.
thing to say.
Nope.
But it still has this funky stink over it, like my poor elongated skull friends. Um,
Hey, we love
I'm.
elongated skulls on this
I.
channel. By the
We
way, you had a great
do.
article on them in that Pharaohs magazine. That was cool.
Thank you, thank you.
I wanted to ask about the elongated skull for the last 90 minutes. So please tell us where you
Yeah,
got
okay.
it.
I would be happy to. I actually bought it from an Etsy shop,
Okay.
which I do have linked to. I'm blanking on the name right now, but I do have them linked to in the video that I posted about it because I made a commercial for him.
Mm,
Essentially, the first video I put out on this thing was a thank you because he did this
mm,
custom.
hmm.
He wasn't. It was just the skull he was offering, but it's a full sized replica of what I consider to be one of the naturally elongated skull people,
Okay.
and I believe those people are direct holdovers from. Are we good? Think
Yeah, we're
it's
good. We
changed.
just
Make the
wanted
skull a little bigger.
Okay.
Yep.
The I what I think happened was the people from the Mesopotamian region, the giant hominids, as they bred more with humans, we got these guys.
Mm,
And I believe that's why in a lot of them we see deformities. Think about Tutankhamun's line,
correct. Yeah.
Yep.
because it's confirmed that King Tut has a semi-elongated skull. That's
Mhm.
not a matter of conjecture. It's fact. It's scientifically documented. So why does he have that? Why were they ever even doing it? And why was the ruling class of everywhere around the world perceived to have it around the 8,000 to 2,000 year ago time period? Because throughout that time period is when we see these guys being represented, or big long hats
Uh
all
huh.
over.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we see less giants being represented.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
being represented in times around 11,000 to 10,000 years ago. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, they become very few and far between. But what we see is the ruling class isn't giants anymore at that time. Around
Mhm.
the 8,000 year mark, it's these guys.
Yeah.
And I think it's because as they bred with humans, the giant qualities about them obviously are going to
move.
change as you have the different phenotypes being introduced.
Yep.
There is fetuses that have been examined and have the elongated skull, so I won't even hear that it's all head binding. That's such a silly, like,
Right.
there's multiple examples of fetuses, so I think it's silly as hell. And a lot of academics will just go, it's all head binding. But there's the imitation, absolutely. Tons
Yeah.
and tons.
I wanted to touch on that because Akhenaten, he changed the Egyptian religion into worshiping the sun god. But not only that, they were. I mean, he definitely Akhenaten had a serious dome on him. All right, he had an actual elongated skull, but that was their image of God at the time. That's why they did it, and that's why how the hell did it get to Central South America type? You know what I mean? Like, how did elongated skulls get to the Americas?
Well, what I think happened is around the 5,000 year time period, we start to see the decline of the elongated skull ruling class.
Okay.
You start to see the average Joes, the roundheads, us regular Homo sapiens say,
Right.
"Screw you guys."
Right.
And what we find in the archaeological record is mass graves of brutal annihilations of elongated skull people in the Mediterranean area.
Wow.
And it's so I think around the 5,000 year time period, they said it is not safe to be around here no more. And they got out of Dodge and sailed to South America. Remember
Interesting.
that these would be the descendants of people who were superior to us, who had
Correct.
literally larger brains than us.
Correct.
So I'm going to assume they had some natural advantages from a mental standpoint, and I know for a fact from researching now, you realize the secret cults have been passing on and preserving information very tightly from generation to generation, and it gets obscured and it gets hidden and it becomes deeply esoteric, but the information is still there and it's been preserved really at the core for 10,000 years now. So the ruling class had secrets nobody else had. So I think they sailed to South America. They showed up in South America and they said, we can do some great and amazing stuff. And that's
then they
when
did.
you see, yeah, Kukulkan, the first iconography of Quetzalcoatl shows up at that time, because now we're talking 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, right? And that's when the first Quetzalcoatl iconography starts showing up. So
did he have an elongated skull in the pictures of?
So in a lot of classic Maya art, they are depicted as having much more stylized, elongated skulls than we have. The Inca, we know because of the Inca bone, it's named after them. We know that the Inca were naturally elongated skull people. We know that the Maya practiced it a lot. Not only did they practice head binding or cranial deprivation or deformation. There we go. They definitely were doing that a lot, but there's natural examples of it too, I believe. They were doing implants as well. The Maya were. They were implanting metal into the skull, which was wild, and they were able to perform essentially brain surgery to such an accurate level that we can see in the examples we've found of implanted skulls. The people survived well after the operation took place and the bones recalcified around it.
Wow.
But it's I think they showed up and they started teaching probably the Olmec first, how to do these things, the Inca, the first civilizations living around where they showed up.
Sure, sure.
Which we know where a majority of them came from in Peru, right? That's where the
Mm-hmm.
biggest examples are. So I think from roughly the Lima, Peru area, they spread out from there and started working with the civilizations that were from there. And just eventually at a certain point, I think the lineage died out to where you don't see these people anymore. It's just a trait that, yes, it's buried in our code, most of us. I think the red hair phenotype, I believe, traces from these people, which is why I've got her with cinnamon hair. I call her Puka Uma, which is Incan for redhead.
Cool.
And I think the red hair and green eyes comes from the elongated skull lineage. So that's pretty much my idea of how they got from where they started to where we find them more in South America.
Yeah, I want to talk to you a lot about the Mayans because I know that's your thing. I wanted to ask. I feel like we're going to, because Mike's got to go to work. We got to do it. We will do it in another episode. But how did you? Well, why the Mayans, and why? Like, what first got you interested in the Mayans and that kind of thing?
Well, everything around me I've placed super intentionally. I'm big into symbology, and the Yucatan map above my head is definitely no accident. The Mayans, when you look into the Maya, they are such a profound people, that so deeply. Not only was their freaking astronomy knowledge and mathematical knowledge ridiculous, their combination of the masculine and the feminine principles, I think, almost more than any other civilization except for Egypt, was so complete. The Maya were a brutal and horrific people in so many ways, and were the most elegant and classy people in so many other ways. And I what is the world, right? Nature kills and nature gives, and it can be beautiful and it can be horrific. And I think the Maya were a civilization that just beautifully encapsulated that as a symbolic people.
Yeah.
And they knew that about themselves, which I also like.
They knew that about the universe too, and nature, and how nature was beautiful and horrific at the same time as well, right? And they knew about the cycles of time. That's the big one that they get credited with. Is there like anything about the Mayans that maybe isn't commonly talked about that you particularly interests you or something? Because they were good at a lot of shit.
So I think they're like the dirty little secret of the archaeological world. Because there has been a concerted effort to not very seriously try and reveal much to us about the Maya, especially when you compare them with like the Egyptians. We know how Egyptians like to wipe their ass. We don't know a majority of Mayan leaders. We don't even know what they called themselves because their glyphs are too eroded, and frickin' Delanda burned all their damn writing, which was extensive.
I
Damn
know.
Delanda permanently to hell for that. I said it. I
Yeah,
said what
for
I said.
sure.
Fight me, everybody. So I think that they are the dirty secret of the archaeological world because, like you aptly pointed out, they man, they were smart. They knew stuff they shouldn't have. And I think that they are the handoff civilization.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
that
too.
as shit was going south in the old world, I think the true cult knowledge keepers went over to South America. I think they tried to give their knowledge to different people, and I think the Maya were the ones who took the ball and ran with it, the rubber ball in their case.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Not only did they run with it,
I see what you did there.
yeah. So it's in my opinion, probably going to be the most interesting and telling civilization left to explore. And as it happens, it's right in our backyard. Egypt is hella far away from me. Mexico is not.
Yeah, I think that explains the sort of the dichotomy of like this high culture and technology combined with barbarism that you don't really see in like other civilizations. You do, but not to the degree you do with the Mayans, and it's because it's like here's technology, to like people who like may not quite be ready for
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
They had a understanding of technology in a different sense than we understand technology, but
Sure.
they were a technological civilization.
Yeah. They had fucking
A Yeah.
super highways and stuff.
Yeah.
they had their
Yeah.
highway system's insane.
Well, it's and when you look at the map, this is a Sakabi map of all known sites. All
Mhm.
known locations are documented to the point of the map's creation. Um, and there are just these glaring holes on it. And there's some spots that come next year I'm going to be getting out to that I've found that if they're what I think they are, we'll be adding some new spots to this map.
It's in the
There's nobody
Yucatan.
actually doing that.
You're
What?
going to the Yucatan.
Oh yeah, and I'm trying.
Okay.
I've spoke to Wandering Wolf about it. I'm hoping he'll be able to join me because I would love to get out there. And nobody really since let me grab this real quick. The Incidents of Travel. John Stevens and Catherwood, they went out and they documented the sites in the Yucatan and wrote about it from an explorer's perspective and from a scientist's perspective. And I don't think there's very many people, with the exception of Luke Caverns and Mike from Wandering Wolf,
Love
that
that
are
guy.
actually, oh, he's just the best. Mike Collins is great. Uh, but like really, who else is going out and doing citizen archaeology? Really? I mean, they're not
Hmm.
digging. We can't do that, obviously. But you can do what these guys did.
Hmm.
You can document these sites. You can take pictures. They couldn't, they drew them. But Mike takes some of the most amazing photographs of sites ever taken, and
Hmm.
sites that nobody has ever seen, aren't in
Hmm.
any history
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
Luke is starting to get out and document undocumented sites.
Yep.
Somebody needs to do this because archaeology is way too lazy in South America and Mesoamerica.
Yeah, I like Greg Little does good work too with his mound books and stuff like that. We love him. He was on our show. Oh, is that it? You could sell that on Amazon for like $3,000, man.
Oh no, so that's the field journal. The one that's the money now is his
Encyclopedia.
Look
journal.
at this.
Yeah.
Check this out. Nice.
Mint
Got a copy.
mint condition, and I put corners on it because his book
Oh man,
deserves
it's
that.
beautiful.
Nice.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful. Are you first in line for the new one, the new edition, or what?
I sure hope. I'll drive down to him if I have to go grab one.
He's a
I
great guy too. He was nice
Beautiful
enough to,
human.
yeah, he was nice enough to do our show when we were pretty small time. We're still pretty small time, but I don't even think we had 100 subscribers when he came on our show, and that's how much he loves sharing his information. So
He's the most gracious, kindest human, maybe with the exception of Matt Bell that I have interacted with on
Mhm.
those two guys and Dr. Little. I mean, he is. I don't think there's ever been a question I've asked him that he hasn't given a thoughtful response to. And I've
uh-huh.
asked him dumbass questions. I, I'm not an expert. Like I'm transparent about that. So like some of
Hmm.
my questions are kind of stupid and corny, but I want
Hmm.
to know. I'm a curious
Hmm.
guy.
Hmm.
He's studied these things, and
Hmm.
as low hanging or silly as some of the things might be, I'm curious, and he knows. And he has always been so gracious to answer. all my questions and just be such a good, decent human. I can't say
Mhm.
enough good things about him. Everybody should buy his books that are still in stock.
Shout
Yeah,
out
yeah,
to
for
Dr.
sure.
Little.
For sure. Hey, I just get with me offline about this, but I have a little spot in Tulum that if you guys need a home base, you could stay there for free, man.
I
Uh,
will definitely get with you. Thank you, sir.
yep. Um, yeah,
This
man.
has been a blast chatting with you, Cody. Honestly, I figured we would talk more about ancient history, but I really appreciated our little expose on church, hermeticism, and sort of the interplay in between these philosophies.
Agreed, and I also feel like this is the not the only time these worlds are going to collide. So next time
For
we can
sure.
do ancient history more. What do you say, Cody?
I would love that. I've
Yeah.
got a billion things I'm interested in. That's kind of my shtick is casting a wide net. So I'm here for
Yeah.
any conversation. I appreciated this very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome. I also just wanted to shout out really quick the Institute for Natural Philosophy and Ricardo and the boys and gals because like I really think they're doing great work connecting all these people and creating this network of people who want to think about this stuff and want to share this information. And I wouldn't have connected with you had I not, like been connected with Ricardo. And so I just want to thank Ricardo. I know he's going to be watching. I don't think he sleeps.
No, yeah,
Um,
he doesn't. He's superhuman. I don't know how he does it.
yeah, but he's doing the Lord's work for lack of a better
Sure
word.
is.
So, yeah, just wanted to shout that out. But guys, it's been fun.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
guys
on the
so
show.
much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Mike. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it, guys.